We need to talk about why the nicest women are so often the sickest. We praise nice women. We call them sweet, selfless, low maintenance, easy, never makes a fuss, always puts everyone else first. But those exact same women, they're often the ones who are under the seams falling apart. They're exhausted, they're resentful, they're anxious, and sometimes literally sick, dealing with autoimmune issues and other chronic illnesses that no one can quite explain. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the strange, real link between chronic niceness and chronic illness, why this happens, where it comes from, and why this is happening at an alarming rate in women specifically, and of course, how to break free from this pattern and finally get comfortable being the villain in someone else's story. Because nice isn't really a personality trait at all. It's a survival response. And if you never learn how to say no, your body will start saying it for you. So if you've spent your whole life being the good girl, this video is for you. And it might explain more than you think. Hey friend, welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Jillz and I help women step into their power, tap into their divine feminine, and become their best self, live their best life. So if that's something you want to do, you should subscribe and stick around. And in case you want more from me besides just my YouTube videos, you should get on my newsletter, The Dream Life Digest. It lands in your inbox for free every Tuesday, and the link to sign up for that is down below. So before we get into why this happens, I want to introduce you to someone, and you might recognize her. You might actually be her. Let's call her Jessica. Jessica is lovely. Everyone says so. She's the easy one, the low maintenance one, the one who's always fine with whatever. She says no worries when it's actually kind of a big worry. She apologizes when someone bumps into her. She'll sit with the wrong order at a restaurant and eat it, unhappy, because sending it back makes her feel like a burden, or like she'll make the waiter feel bad. She says yes to every favor. She says yes to the plans that she's dreading. She says yes to that extra project at work. And then she sits in her car afterwards feeling resentful. But here's the thing, Jessica is actually really loving. She's warm, she cares about people, she's not faking any of that. And everyone around her calls her nice, sweet, so easy to be around. And Jessica would tell you that that's just who she is. But what if it isn't who she is at all? What if it's who she had to become? Because here's what's so crucial to understand, even though it's contrary to what most people think. Most chronic people-pleasing isn't kindness at all, and it's not a personality trait. It's fear. It's a nervous system survival response, and it's self-abandonment used for self-protection. But why? Okay, that is what we're gonna dig into, and it's going to make everything more clear. Dr. Gabor Mate, he's a physician who spent decades studying the link between chronic emotional suppression and people-pleasing and chronic illness and sickness. And a lot of this video is pulling from his work. One of the most important things he teaches is this. Human beings have two fundamental needs. The first is attachment, our need for love, connection, belonging, acceptance, and closeness with the people around us. The second is authenticity, our need to be who we really are, to express what we feel, to say what we think, to have needs, to have boundaries, to be angry when we're angry, to be hurt when we're hurt. But if you look at these two needs, attachment and authenticity, you start to notice a problem. Because a lot of the time, these needs are in direct conflict with each other. What happens when a child is angry, but expressing that anger gets them punished? What happens when a child has needs, but those needs are ignored? What happens when saying no leads to rejection? What happens when being fully themselves threatens their connection to the people they rely on? Or in other words, what happens when one non-negotiable need is pitted against the other? Right? We have to choose. Do I stay true to myself or do I stay connected to them? But for a child though, okay, this is really important. For a child though, this isn't really a choice at all. Because for a little kid, attachment is survival, right? A little kid cannot survive on their own. They cannot feed themselves, they cannot protect themselves, they can't take care of themselves. So staying connected to their parents or their caregivers is literally life or death. It's programmed into us. So when a child feels like being her true, authentic self might cost her that connection, she will abandon herself every single time. Without fail. She will bury the parts of herself that seem to push people away. She will mold herself into whatever keeps the people around her happy, calm, and close, and loving her. And so almost every time the child sacrifices authenticity to preserve attachment. And it doesn't take some dramatic toxic childhood for this to happen. It can be really subtle. Like maybe every time you got angry, your mom got overwhelmed and subconsciously pulled away a little bit. And so you learned that anger wasn't safe. Maybe you only got praised and got attention when you were achieving and helping people and being the good one. So you learned that that's what made you worthy of love and kept that connection intact. Maybe you had big emotions in a family that just didn't do big emotions. And so you learned that you had to shrink them down. And little by little, you figure out which version of you keeps the connection safe, what keeps that attachment intact. And so you become her. Agreeable, easy, helpful, good. And alas, the nice girl was born. But here is the important part, okay? This was brilliant. It worked. It got you the love, the connection, the safety, and the caregiving you needed. Becoming nice was a very intelligent thing that girl did. There's just one problem, though. The problem isn't that she learned to people please. The problem is that she learned to people please and then she just mistook it for her personality and never grew out of it. There's no version of herself that she can remember that wasn't the nice one. So it doesn't feel like something she's doing, it just feels like who she is. Mate describes these adaptations like wallpaper, and I think that's a really good way to put it. They blend so far into the background of your personality and your reality that you stop seeing them completely. They're just your new normal, your second nature. So then Jessica grows up. She moves out. She can pay her own bills. She can feed herself. She can take care of herself. She can walk away from anyone who treats her badly. She doesn't need to people please to survive anymore. But yet she keeps doing it. And she doesn't even realize that this is a mask that she put on so long ago that got so deeply ingrained and wired into her nervous system that she forgot she was ever wearing one. Mate uses a perfect metaphor in his book, The Myth of Normal. I don't know if you guys remember that really bad winter storm in Texas a few years ago. It was very cold, very icy. A lot of people's power went out for days or even weeks. So what did they do to survive? They bundled up as much as they could. They put on every single layer they had, every single jacket and all their scarves, which was exactly the right thing to do. It kept them alive. But what if they never took those heavy layers off? The storm passes, the weather warms up, and then the Texas summer heat comes, which by the way is very hot. Those same adaptations they use to survive, the heavy coats, if they are not released or discarded, become the very thing making them miserable and jeopardizing their life now. And Mate says something about this that genuinely stopped me in my tracks when I read it. I had to go back and highlight it. And he said, "It is sobering to realize that many of the personality traits we have come to believe are us, and perhaps even take pride in, actually bear the scars of where we lost connection to ourselves way back when." Everything Jessica does, the people pleasing, the can't say no, the molding herself to make everyone else feel comfortable, is a survival response. It is something her nervous system turned on a long time ago and never switched back off. Now, I'm sure you've heard of fight or flight, right? It's the nervous system's response to danger. Something threatens you and your body fires up to protect you. And with fight or flight, you either fight against the threat or you run from it. And most people think that's it. There's just two options. But there are actually 4 responses to danger: fight, flight, freeze, or the 4th one that nobody talks about, fawn. And fawn is the one that runs Jessica's entire life. Imagine a kid on a playground, okay? And there's a bully coming after them. There's only a few ways that kid can respond. The first kid fights, right? They put up their fists, they push back, they take the bully on. That's fight. The second kid runs, right? They book it. They're trying to get out of there as fast as they can. That's flight. The third kid freezes, goes totally stiff, can't move, can't talk, just stands there and waits for it to be over. That's freeze. But the 4th kid does something very clever. The 4th kid befriends the bully, starts laughing at their jokes, offers up their lunch, their gummy bear snacks. That kid becomes helpful, agreeable, nice, because some part of them figured out something very smart. If I can make this bully like me, they won't hurt me. And if I can keep them happy, I'll be safe. And that's fawning. That's what Jessica learned to do. And that's what a lot of us subconsciously learn to do growing up. And here's the thing, you don't fawn when you're powerful. You fawn when you can't win and you can't leave. Think about it. If the kid could easily win the fight, they'd fight. If they could outrun the bully, they'd run. Fawning is the nervous system strategy you instinctually reach for when fighting back isn't safe and escaping isn't an option, aka when the other person has all the power and you have none. And I think here's an experience that almost every single woman on this planet has had, so you can understand. You're out somewhere, enjoying yourself, and a man you don't know starts talking to you. And for some reason, the vibes are off. He makes you feel a little uncomfortable. And instead of being like, no thank you, I'm not interested, and walking away, what happens? We go, oh, yeah. We laugh a little, we smile. We're nice to the exact person that we don't trust and want to get away from. You don't laugh nervously at a man bothering you because you're nice. You do it because some subconscious part of you has already calculated that being warm is safer than being honest. So now picture not a bully on the playground or an uncomfortable stranger, but a little girl in her own home. A little girl whose actual survival depends on the bigger people around her. She can't fight them, right? She's way too weak and little, and they're her whole world anyway. She can't leave, she's 4. She has no power and no exit. So her nervous system does the only thing that a small, powerless person can do. She fawns. She becomes nice. Good, easy, helpful, tuned into everyone's moods. She makes herself so pleasing that she stays safe, she stays loved. That's what niceness is. It's a fawn response, the survival strategy of someone who once had no power and no way out. And while that might sound dramatic, that's the experience that every little child is put in. And that little girl grows up to be Jessica. Or maybe you relate to Jessica. She's a grown woman now, but she's still that little girl on the playground who hands the bully her lunch, saying yes when she means no, eating the wrong meal so nobody's inconvenienced, managing everyone else's comfort but her own. The threat is long gone, but the fawning has never stopped. But now here's where this goes from just a personality and behavior thing to something much more serious. Because all of that people-pleasing doesn't just make you tired and resentful. It also makes you sick. They have discovered a real link between emotional suppression and illness. And what does constant fawning and people-pleasing require? Suppression. To keep everyone else comfortable, you have to swallow what you actually feel. Your anger, your needs, your feelings. But if our anger is never expressed, if our disappointment is never expressed, if our needs are never expressed, where do they go? And here's what Mate's work points to. Okay, that anger doesn't just disappear when you swallow it. It stays in the body. And when you do that, not just once, but every day for years and years or even decades, your body starts to pay the price. Because when you are constantly suppressing yourself and fawning, remember, that is a nervous system threat response, then your nervous system never gets to leave that stress state. And your body stays flooded with stress hormones like cortisol. And short term, that's fine, but year after year, that chronic stress wears the body down. And one of the systems it disrupts most is your immune system. And this is some of the most well-established science we have. A body kept in survival mode for years is a body that eventually starts to break down in real, physical, diagnosable ways. Now, here's where it gets a little eerie, because think about what anger is underneath. Anger isn't just a random feeling, it has a purpose. Anger is the emotion that comes up when someone crosses a line with you, when someone takes advantage of you, disrespects you, or violates what you're okay with. And anger is the body's response that says, no, back off, not having it. Anger exists to protect the self, to defend your boundaries. Now think about what your immune system does. It does the exact same job. Its job is to protect the self, more specifically, the body. And your immune system decides what belongs and what's a threat, what to protect and what to attack. And it defends the boundary of your physical body. So anger guards the boundary of yourself and your immune system guards the boundary of your body. Same job, 2 different levels. And Mate's argument is this. When a woman spends her entire life unable to defend her boundaries, swallowing every no, suppressing all of her anger, fawning and people-pleasing into someone she's not, her body and her immune system can start to mirror that. The immune system's boundaries get confused too. What's a threat to our body and what's not? And do we fight against the threat or do we allow it and fight against ourselves instead? And in a way, that's exactly what fawning is. Instead of fighting against the thing that's hurting you, you turn against yourself. And over again, Mate noticed the same pattern. Women who are struggling with autoimmune diseases also spent a lifetime of suppressing themselves and people-pleasing and fawning and suppressing their anger and being the nice one, prioritizing everyone else's comfort over their own. And he was not the only person who noticed this. A psychologist named Dr. Lydia Temashok spent years studying people with melanoma specifically and noticed a similar pattern. Many of them were incredibly nice. And by nice, I mean conflict avoidant, self-sacrificing, the type of people who rarely expressed anger and often put everyone else's needs above their own. And you know how there's like a type A personality and a type B personality? Well, she coined the term a type C personality to describe these types of people. And she defined type C people as cooperative and appeasing, unassertive, patient, unexpressive of negative emotion, particularly anger, and compliant with external authorities. These identified pleasers, as she called them, were way more worried about how their illness would affect their family than themselves. And they weren't the only people who noticed this. And of course, this is simply observational. But when a pattern keeps showing up over and over again, it gets hard to write off as a coincidence. And you can't ignore basic biology. That chronic stress has real consequences on the body and on the immune system. And that part is not anecdotal at all. Now, I just want to be clear. If you have an autoimmune disease, I'm not saying that you gave yourself that autoimmune disease or that every people pleaser is bound to get sick. You know, the human body is very complex. But what I am saying is that when the same pattern keeps showing up again and again, it's worth paying attention to. And so many women who have struggled with autoimmune issues, myself included, have recognized themselves in this pattern. And on a soul level, it just rings true. So why women though? Why is this hitting women so much harder than men? Well, for one, and this is Mate's core belief, women have been conditioned from a very young age to prioritize attachment over authenticity, to be nice, to be agreeable, to be accommodating, to keep the peace, to take care of everyone else. And while men can absolutely fall into these patterns too, the difference is that women often get rewarded for them. So the very behaviors that lead to chronic self-suppression in women are often the behaviors that get praised. The second reason, and one that I think is overlooked, is power. Fawning is the strategy of whoever has the least power in the room. And let's be real, throughout a long time, throughout history, women have not had much power. We have been economically dependent. We are more physically vulnerable. We are more often in positions where keeping someone calm and happy isn't just being polite, it's keeping ourselves safe. Because remember, when you don't have the power to fight or leave, appeasing is what's left. So for women throughout history, fawning was a smart strategy, and it worked. So it stuck. But sometimes survival strategies have a cost, and 80% of autoimmune diseases are in women. 80%. Okay, that is a lot, and that is meaningful. Is it a coincidence? Dr. Mate doesn't think so, and you know what? I don't either. So with all that said, let's talk about what to do with all this. How can we start letting go of that fawn response that's been subconsciously running our entire lives? And how can we start to become more confident in ourselves and our authenticity and become confident enough to start becoming the villain in someone else's story sometimes? Before we go deep into this, I just want you to understand that healing from people-pleasing doesn't mean being selfish and rude. And there is a huge difference between kindness and self-sacrifice. And sometimes people who have spent their entire lives people-pleasing confuse the two. I'm just saying this because so many people who are stuck people-pleasing all the time, they are truly very kind people and they don't want to let that go. But you won't. You stay a kind person, but you'll become a version of kind that is also authentic and honest and healthy. So how do you actually start to heal this though? Well, it comes down to one thing, one sentence actually. You heal people-pleasing by proving to your nervous system that disappointment is not the same thing as danger. You must teach your nervous system that disapproval is no longer threatening like it used to be. For the little version of you, disappointment really was danger. If the people she relied on pulled away, well, uh-oh, that's not good. But you're not 4 anymore. You are a grown adult now, and those things that used to threaten your safety before are no longer a thing. But your nervous system just hasn't gotten the memo yet. So we have to rewire that automatic nervous response that keeps happening and teach it the truth. That you are safe now, that you can disappoint someone and live, that you can be disliked and still be completely okay, that you can disagree and stand up for yourself. And you know what? The world doesn't end. And the only way that you teach yourself this is by doing it, by living the proof. So here's exactly how to do it, okay? Step 1, catch it in real time. You cannot break a pattern that you are unconscious of. So the first step is to recognize it in the moment. When you're saying yes, when you really want to say no, notice it. When you're over-explaining and writing a paragraph-long apology over text about how you can't attend some event, notice it. When you agree with someone just to keep the other person happy, notice it. Sometimes these patterns get so ingrained in us that we literally don't even notice that we're doing it. The yes is out of your mouth before you even checked whether you meant it. You've apologized for something before you even thought about if you actually feel like you did something wrong. So we need to move it from the unconscious to the conscious. We need to bring awareness to it because again, you cannot change what is unconscious. And now step 2, start disappointing people in tiny ways. And by that, I mean lean into authenticity in tiny ways, even if it creates little moments of awkwardness or disappointment. Okay, tiny. If they get your order wrong at a restaurant, politely send the food back. If your partner says he wants sushi tonight, what do you think? You can say, I'm actually craving Italian. Did someone ask you for a favor that you genuinely don't have energy for? You can say, I can't this time. No apology, no essay. If someone shares an opinion and asks you about yours, you don't have to agree with them just to appease them. You can say, actually, I think differently. People often want a quick, easy fix to rewire your nervous system. And I hate to break it to you, but that is not how it works. The answer people don't always want to hear is this. You rewire your nervous system through tiny reps, new experiences over and over that slowly teach your body that it's safe now, that the danger is gone. Now, here's the thing that might happen eventually, and I'm just gonna be real. When you start choosing yourself, there is a possibility that not everyone in your life is going to clap for you, especially people who got really used to the old you, right? And really valued how agreeable and easy you've always been and how helpful you've always been. When you stop being that person, some of them might not like it as much. And in their head, they see you as the bad guy. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be willing to be the quote villain in someone else's story sometimes. Those are part of those tiny reps that you have to start building. And sure, those moments might feel a little uncomfortable, a little awkward, but you're not in danger anymore. And that's what those tiny reps teach you. And I promise you, over time, your system actually learns this. The patterns that have become so ingrained in you, they start to loosen. The fear in you gets quieter and your authenticity and your confidence grows. And I say this with experience because I have lived this myself. Okay? I used to be people pleaser number 1 over here. And at a certain point, I realized just how much it was costing me, including my health, because I had a miserable autoimmune condition. But you build these tiny reps by getting out of your comfort zone and choosing yourself instead. Step 3, make friends with your anger. Remember, anger has a purpose. It is our internal alarm system that tells us when something isn't right. And someone like Jessica learned that her anger probably wasn't allowed, and so she learned the drill. Ignore it, push it down, talk yourself out of it. Convince yourself that you weren't even that upset. But you know what? After years and years of doing that, you stop hearing the alarm altogether. And for 1, that's dangerous, and for 2, that's unhealthy. All that anger gets suppressed in the body, and we know that that is not good. So part of that healing is letting that anger back in, feeling it, expressing it in a healthy way, reconnecting with that part of you again. Not so that you can just blow up at everyone, but so you can actually feel the signal again for when those boundaries are getting crossed, because it's an important messenger. And so that energy gets released from the body instead of getting trapped inside and wreaking havoc. To wrap it up, the most important thing that you can take from this video is that nice girl personality and that people-pleasing behavior. It's simply a survival response. And in moments in the past, it was probably very useful and very strategic. but that doesn't mean it's still helping you today. Now, if you haven't seen this video though, how to actually heal your nervous system, I highly, highly recommend you go watch it. It will tell you exactly how to start regulating your nervous system in a way that you actually understand and probably have never heard before. So if today's video resonated with you at all, then this is a video that you need to see. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you got value from this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.